Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell and welcome to Week in Review. Week in Review is a series we do here at the Dice Tower where we talk about games that we put out in the previous week. Not games, but reviews and videos that we've done about games. And so this is like short summaries. And then if you want to see the entire video, we'll have links in the description of this video. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, I'm Z Garcia. Here's what I reviewed last week. So I did Thrones of Valeria, which I gave a 6 to. This is a trick-taking game in which the ranking between the suits is ever-changing, which I really like. But I found that every card having a unique ability really slows down the game for me, and I thought it lost some of that pizzazz that I tend to like in trick-taking games, in which you very quickly go around the table going bam, boom, bam, boom. This trick is mine, next, boom. So it really slows the game down. It kind of changes the way it feels for me, and I thought it had some serious production issues with 2 of the colors being incredibly hard to see on the cards. Things that are incredibly apparent, and I thought that it was strange that those things were not caught. So it definitely put a dent in my score for the game. I reviewed Unmatched, Marvel Unmatched, Teen Spirit, which I rated a 7.5 out of 10. I really like the Marvel Unmatched set that they've come out with in the past, but of the 3, including this one now, with Redemption Row and the Hell's Kitchen one, I find this one to be the least interesting of the 3. The characters are engaging, but none of them had any particular pizzazz. I didn't find any of them to make me, when I discovered how they worked, go, wow, that's really clever and interesting. Where the other 2 had at least a character each, that I found that to be the case. So this is solid. I really enjoyed it. It just wasn't quite up to the level that I found myself enjoying some of the other Marvel sets, but for me specifically, who loves to collect these things, I'm definitely going to get one. I'm going to throw it in the mix and enjoy those. And some of those characters like Cloak and Dagger are fantastic, for example. Squirrel Girl, I thought it was, I could take it or leave it. But the set is a good set. So definitely if you are an Unmatched fan or you like the Marvel games or theme and you haven't tried this out, pick up some of these games, because they're just fantastic dueling or even, 3-player games. They're just really, really fun. I reviewed Qawale, which I rated an 8 out of 10. This one is an abstract strategy game, and it's one of the fastest abstract games I've played in a long time. The game is so simple, so straightforward, that is both, I think, its strength and its weakness. It's kind of a 4 in a row meets a Mancala kind of game. That's largely what you're doing in the game. And I really like that you can bring it to the table, teach it to just about anybody, have a quick game of it, go again immediately when the game is over. Playing 2 of these games back to back will take you 20 minutes. But it's so straightforward that I think it's going to stay on the shelf because it's, I don't go away from it thinking, ooh, if I had done this, if I had noticed that move, if I had done this other thing differently. You can kind of see what you should do, and you just go ahead and do that. Will you make mistakes? Yeah, certainly, but it doesn't have anything that I keep mulling over when I walk away from the table. And again, that hurts it a little bit. I really, really like the game. Certainly one I would recommend for people who are getting into abstract games. This is a really, really good one. And then lastly, I reviewed Frostpunk, the board game, which I also rated an 8 out of 10. This is the exact opposite of Qawale. It is chock full of theme. It is a sprawling, massive thing. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be difficult to get into. But when I want to play something that puts me in this dark, grim world, which I'm just clawing every possible, option, every possible moment, this is one that's going to make it to the table when I want something like that. It is very immersive. It is incredibly well made. The theme, the strategy, the options are almost fathomless. So I really enjoyed it. Again, not a game for the opposite reason than Qawale. It's also a game that's not going to make it to the table a whole lot. But when it does, I think I'm going to have a great, great time with it. And that's it for me. I will see you on the next one.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yee, and this week I reviewed 3 games. The first one is Autobahn. I gave this a 7. It has a lot of train game feels, as in you're building up tracks or highways as you're doing stuff. There's some really cool delivery system. I like the way the scoring works and the card play. I think there's a lot of fun stuff going on here. It does feel heavy and fiddly, and there's a lot of setup, so if that's something that you struggle with or something you don't enjoy, there's also math phases going on. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I played again. Tons of fun. The next one is Miss Over Carcassonne. I also gave this a 7. Taking Carcassonne, which has slowly fallen on my radar, I enjoy it less and less the more I have better games that I enjoy more. Being able to make this cooperative did kind of reignite it for me and made it more enjoyable again. It does get very hard, and it does feel very lucky at certain ways and at certain points as you play, but I enjoy the cooperative nature of it and the way that you're working together, building out that map and trying to keep the ghost from coming and getting you. The last game is Rise. I gave this an 8. It is tracks on tracks on tracks. There's so many tracks in this game. That is the key and the heart and core to it. But the action selection, which is a track, is so fascinating because as you're paying more money, you're moving across this track, you're paying more money for more expensive cards. They're weighted at the same level as the other action cards that cost less. But as you move up this track, you're also passing these events. And so you can get these extra bonuses as you spend more money. So you're not paying for a better card, but instead you're paying for all the cards in between that you've passed that become actions. They give you money and victory points and, more track movement and stuff going on. So really enjoy what's going on with that. I gave that an 8. Tons of fun. So it's been a very good week for me when it comes to games that I reviewed. So thanks for joining me. I'm Wendy Yee. Let's see who's up next.
All right, first up, I took a look at an insert from the ShipShape Gamer for the game Obsession. Now, Obsession has a great storage system to start, but what I found was this insert is one beautiful and fits the theme very, very well, as well as it does aid in getting the game to the table quicker. So is it necessary? No. But if you're looking to fill one of those two things, just immerse yourself a little bit more in the theme, as well as get the game to the table, play ready quicker, this insert is fantastic. Game-wise, I took a look at 3 different games. First up, I took a look at Seize the Bean. I came in at a 6 with this one. This was a really hard score for me to give it because as far as gameplay, I loved what it was doing. I loved the tableau building, the deck building, the different ways that you can score and fill contracts, and you just had a lot of control over your board, ultimately trying to serve these customers and fulfill contracts the best, get the most reviews. I loved that gameplay, but the iconography was so bad in this. It had no player aid, and even with a player aid, I think that it was just very confusing, and there was a lot of exceptions to all of the iconography. So for that, it really is going to hold me back from getting it to the table and even recommending it. So Seize the Bean, I was a 6. I also took a look at The Mirroring of Mary King. This is a 2-player game, and I came in at an 8.5. I really like the tug-of-war style game that this provides. I think thematically it's really fun. One is trying to possess the body, and the other is trying to maintain control of her body, and you're flipping these tiles. Aesthetically, it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's really good decision space as well as you're trying to maximize your card plays, but not use all those cards because that is an endgame win or loss condition. And so I just really liked a lot of what this game has to offer, and I look forward to getting to the table. So that is The Mirroring of Mary King. I came in at 8.5. But the best of the week for me was Frostpunk. I came in at a 9 for this game. Oh my word, do I like this game. I think that thematically it's very well integrated. It's a theme that I like as well. I like difficult, complex, cooperative games. And I think that this just checks all those boxes. I love the decision space of you're having to make tough decisions that you know are going to come back to help or haunt you. And just trying to make that maintain that balance, I guess, through it and ultimately just survive as long as you can. Great discussions are had during this game. And this is one that I said it's going to be hard to get to the table, but I would plan my weekend or my game night around this game because it's that good. And I'm really excited to see the repeat plays of this, what comes as you really kind of nail down that potentially grindy process of all the different 8 phases it goes through. So for me, Frostpunk came in at a 9. That is it for me though, so let's keep it going.
Hey there everybody, it's Mike DeLisio, and this week I was a part of 3 reviews. First up was Dice Kingdoms of Valeria. I gave this a 6 out of 10. This is a roll and write style game in the Valeria universe. And while there were certain aspects of the game I liked kind of some of the thematic tie-ins with earlier games in the series. I felt like there was really nothing about it that made it stand out from the many, many, many other roll and writes out there. Nothing about it was particularly novel or made me feel like I would choose it over other games in a similar weight of this style that I would rather play, something like Fleet Dice or Hadrian's Wall, which is much heavier, but just not enough to stand out. Next, I was part of the Seize the Bean review, and this is another game that I really wanted to like, and I do like aspects of it. It's a game where you are running coffee shops and you're trying to make customers happy by fulfilling their orders, food and coffee and things along those lines. It does a lot of really clever things, but the iconography, some of the graphic design was so poor that it knocked me to a non-recommend score. It was that bad, and there's no real player aids, and there's so many different types of customers that you can play with the game, that many of them are going to have their own different symbology, that I really think this is a game that in a second edition with some cleaned up iconography and player aids could be a very, very good game. Just missed it for me. And then finally, I also reviewed Thrones of Valeria. Another Valeria game? Yeah, there's a lot of them. This is a trick-taking game. I gave Thrones of Valeria a 7 out of 10. It is a game that handles trick-taking with some slight different variations. There's no one trump suit. You have different suits that can be trumped depending upon actions that you will take when you're playing cards. So when you play a card, not only does it have a suit and a number, but it has an ability that you're going to trigger, and that can oftentimes affect the strength of the suits, things along those lines. So I like what it's doing. The thing that prevented it from being a little bit higher is that there are some graphic issues. Primarily two of the colors, yellow and especially silver, are so washed out on the cards that you can very often have a hard time seeing what is physically played on the table. And it doesn't even have to be a long way away from you. It's pretty stunning that this got through production. I have to assume that it looked different on the final product than it did in the production process. So, all right, there you have it. That's it for me this week. Let's keep it moving.
Hey everybody, Chris here. This week I took a look at 5 games, the first of which was Dated, a trivia game for people that suck at trivia. It sucks. I gave it a 3. I also did a funny skit with Mike. Mike, thank you for having no shame in agreeing to do all sorts of dumb bits with me. A fun review that you should go watch. It's basically a top 10 party games that actually are trivia games for people that suck at trivia, so make sure to watch that. Next up, Autobahn breaks my heart. I gave this one a 5. I really wanted to like this. I love this company. I love these designers. I love this theme. I love this aesthetic and this look, but it's just a lot of work, and it feels kind of like 2 separate parts of the game that are both independently good but didn't jive well together, so unfortunately for me a 5, not a game that I want to go back to. Next up, Mirroring of Mary King, which I gave a 7.5. I almost always call this the Mirroring of Mary Kay, and then I'm stuck with a multi-level marketing makeup subscription. It's terrible. So anyway, but Mirroring of Mary King is a very good 2-player head-to-head competitive game about, it's sort of a flipping, trying to control a shared person in the middle of the table. I like these little 2-player games. There's a decent amount of game in a small little box, so 7.5. Reviewed that with Camilla. Next up, Rise. Reviewed with Wendy. Gave a 7.5. This game is nothing but tracks. Like, it's seriously just tracks. It's tracks and tracks on tracks on tracks, and it's good. It is a really fun game. I honestly think it would have been better if some parts of it weren't tracks, then the game would have been more dynamic, but it has a really cool action selection system that brings the game to life for me, plus I like tracks. And then lastly, The Mists over Carcassonne, a cooperative version of Carcassonne that I gave an 8. I still prefer playing the original, regular type of Carcassonne, but Mists over Carcassonne is a fun way to introduce a little a cooperative puzzle where you're trying to not let too many ghosts pop out on the board, and you have to figure out what ways to approach this. It's very lucky. I think that's the biggest negative for it, but it's very fun to take these Carcassonne mechanisms and make it in a way where you want to work together with the other players at the table. A fun game, so 8 from me, and that has been my week.
It's time to review the week. This week I took a look at 3 things, which is surprising, but I took a look at the MojoMania. This is basically a scenario pack for Marvel Champions. I love Marvel Champions. This one was kind of like a little bit more wacky, a little bit more interesting. I actually really enjoyed it overall, but I did give it a 7 for my score. Still fun if you're into and have a lot of other Marvel Champions stuff and you still need more. This would be one of the last ones I would get, but it's still really enjoyable. Then I also took a look at Miss over Carcassonne. I like Carcassonne a lot, and this is cooperative Carcassonne. I play this with my friends and family. I played it with Chris and Wendy. I had a blast with it. We did the review together, and it's a lot of fun. This was an 8.5 for me. I really, really enjoyed this game, and I think it's a fresh life into Carcassonne, especially if you want to play that kind of game cooperative. And then I also took a look at Northgard. This is a Viking 4X game, which you think I would love, but there's a lot of take that cards in it and not a lot of interesting decisions when it comes to how to spend your resources. And I just didn't enjoy it. It just was missing that spark. So I gave it a 6 overall. So yeah, that is the reviews I took a look at this week on the Dice Tower.
Hi, I'm Joey Evans, and here's what we reviewed this week. First off, Alex and I reviewed Roland Heights. We gave it an 8. We really liked the game. Lack of player aids on it really slowed the game down, and it could have been better the first experience, but not having those player aids to know what's going on really hurt it. But the rolling meeple mechanic, it's a fun game to check out. So check out that review. Also, Seize the Bean. We reviewed it's about a coffee shop. I think I liked it more than most people here at the studio. It's a fun game to be able to scoop the beans out. It's a fun, exciting game. Again, there are a lot of icons and stuff. It's simpler than it looks. But I liked it. I gave it a 7.5, so I did like that game. And also, Z and I reviewed Unmatched Teen Spirit, which is the new Marvel Unmatched series, and I like all the Unmatched. This one probably ranks second out of the 3 Unmatched. I'm not counting Deadpool in there. Mainly because Squirrel Girl was fine, Miss Marvel was fine, but I did like Cloak and Dagger a lot, and I think I came in a bit higher than him. I gave it an 8. So those are the ones I reviewed this week.
Hey there folks, I'm Jeff, and this week I took a look at a beautiful abstract game. This is The Forests of Pangaea, in which 1 to 4 players represent spirits building trees in a forest. This was a fantastic game, and I really enjoyed this one. And for more of my thoughts, check out my review here in the channel. Cheers.
So for me, I did 6 games I played, so you don't have to. A bunch of very low-rated stuff. But there was also several other games I didn't enjoy too. Northgard, me and Roy took a look at that one. I gave it a 5. There's so many cool pieces in that game, so many nice production. It just comes together in kind of a soulless, unfun take that game. So 5 out of 10. Winter, a 2-player game from DeVere. I'm missing something here. There's just not much of a game. It's an interesting idea. I'm hoping the other 3 seasons are better. Another 5 out of 10. Precognition. I gave this one a 5.5. There's an interesting idea here with playing these cards, but I find it to be a little more complicated than it needs to be, and then the game itself is very, very simple. 5.5. But you know what? A lot of people disagreed in the comments, so maybe they enjoyed it more. Autobahn. I wanted to love this one more than I did. It just a little kind of set on rails, which is kind of funny because it's a rail-esque game, even though it's set on the Autobahn. There's a lot of neat things in it, though, and it might be one that you enjoy. 6 out of 10. Orconomics. Another 6 out of 10. This one's an economic game that has pretty much nothing to do with orcs. But it does fit 5 players well, so there's that. Seize the Bean. Seize the Bean is a big coffee game about fulfilling the needs of your different people coming to your coffee shop. Very strong theme, amazing components, terrible iconography. I would have given this a much higher score if this was more easily playable. But I still enjoy it. 7 out of 10. Motor City, a roll and write game. You put stuff here, you write it over here, you write it over here with a building cars type thing. I enjoyed it. 8 out of 10. Agents of Smersh, a big story-driven game. It's kind of a follow-up to Tales of Arabian Nights of sorts. This is the reprint of the original game. This one's done by Epic, and they did a good job. 8 out of 10. Qawale, this is a 2-player abstract game that Z and I took a look at. 8 moves in the game, but they're like Mancala style. Very quick, very fun. 8 out of 10. I also didn't give a number to these 2 games, but I talked about Risk Shadow Forces. Didn't really like it that much. It feels like a very underwhelming sequel to Risk Legacy. And Catan, Seafarers, and Cities and Nights Deluxe Edition. That's fantastic if you want an expensive, not overpriced, but an expensive deluxe version to the original Catan Deluxe. I did Kickstarter Look Back, where I looked at some projects I did. I started a new little short series on board game terms, and we did a big voting on the board game best covers of all time. And of course, we did our weekly shows, Board Game Breakfast, Board Game Smorgasbord, crowd surfing, lots of videos for you to enjoy this week. I hope you do. Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Basil, and and this has been Week in Review.